Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I want to show you all about automating data, automating your spreadsheets. It's actually easy, it could save you a lot of time, and you'll be happy to wake up and go to work every day. So let's get started.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Glad to have you back. And today I'm going to show you how to automate your formatting for Excel spreadsheets. It's a quite simple process and I hope that this really helps you out. What I'm going to show you here is what the final product looks like. So we have a spreadsheet. This is essentially a data dump. So it's an extract that would, that you would normally do. Let's say you have some data to show a client or show your manager, and it has to be organized in a very specific way. So you extract the data, you will dump it in a tab here called S1. The S2 tab will be where the transformation actually takes place. So let me show you what the finished product here looks like. And remember, this is all about automating the process. Why do you want to automate? Well, because you want to save time. Let's assume you have a spreadsheet and you have thousands of rows and that there are multiple transformations that you need to do. So if you have like even as much as even as low as three formatting steps, I would say automate. Definitely automate. It will save you hours, needless hours of essentially wasting time. But above all, the second great advantage of automation is that doing work over and over, just repetitive work, you will end up making mistakes. So not only is it a great way to save time, and obviously for your company, saving time is saving money, but at the same time, it helps avoid mistakes. So that is the wonderful world of automation. Here we have in color the columns that we want to transfer. We don't want any of the other columns. As we could see, there's other columns that we don't need. We only need the ones that are highlighted. Not only do we want to transfer these columns from the spreadsheet from the S1 to the S2 right here, but we also want to transfer them in a different order, whatever order the client needs or your manager needs, or that makes more sense to you. So let's go ahead and I'll show you what the transformation looks like. We will go to the code and you could find that under extensions and then app script. Our app script is the Google app script application, and this is where you get to enter all your different sheets of code. So I've got a few. The first one actually capitalizes the S1 tab data. So at the top, the fields are going to get capitalized because the import didn't have them as capitalized. So we will just have the script capitalize it, and then you'll see the transformation. Now notice that there is nothing in the S2 spreadsheet. So let's go to run all. So essentially, we're going to run all of these different functions. So let's click on the run all. No worries, I'll show you how the engine is set up. But as we run it, let's take a look and see what's happening. So here we go. It's been extracted. And the next thing that we want is we want it organized by seller. And we see that that's just happened right now. And then we want a split. Here's the split that just happened along all the sellers. And why do we want to split? Because we want to put the total of the potential revenue per dealership. And you see the X there. I'll explain why there is the X, but that will be transformed in the total of the sum. It will be the total of the sum per dealership of the potential revenue if all the cars were sold. So here we go, and we have it in red. Let's just make sure. So we have 800 Loan Mart. Here's the potential in revenue, and we have that split. And as you could see, it took a mere few seconds to format the spreadsheet, extract all the info that we needed, and get it all formatted. And we could just scroll down, and yep, it did it everywhere. So this is pretty much the idea of formatting spreadsheets. Now, how do you go about doing this? It's very simple. Before we begin analyzing this, I just want to send a shout out to the two persons that had um, contributed to this. So it's released under MIT license, and a shout out to Mark Otto and Andrew Fong, who were responsible for working and providing uh, and essentially gathering this data. So thank you, Mark Otto and Andrew Fong. No worries, I do have a link to the spreadsheet, and I do have a link to everything that you'll see here, the code. But I want to go and explain how this works. So first and foremost, what you need is you need to organize yourself. And it's just a very simple organization that I'll show you in a moment. You you would need to gather all the info that in other words, your Excel spreadsheet. And what I'll show you here is under the Google Drive. So essentially, you have your Excel spreadsheets on your desktop. You will bring them into your Google Drive. So these are the data dump, essentially. So you'll just upload the file, or you could just simply create a Google Sheet and just simply go ahead and copy and paste. And there is a bit of info. Here we go. All the info is pasted. Now you'll want to save this as well. In this case, it's already saved. You just want to give it a different name. Name it whatever you want. Week of, or call it first week of March, etc., etc. Whatever you want to name it. Nice thing about Google Sheets is that it auto saves. Every action you take auto saves it. Of course, if you're already familiar, this will come as very easy with you for you. Now, under your drive, what you want to do is you want to create a main sheet. So you want to create a Google Sheet, and you'll call this one main. You don't need to recreate a new sheet, a new main sheet, the one where all your calculations will happen, essentially the engine of your automation. You only build it once. So what we do is this is called main. Instead of sheet one, just to make things easier, I'm going to refer it as S1, refer to it as S1. I will add another one. Of course, this would be our S2. Let's add a third one. Sometimes you may need a third sheet. Just so you know, you could have as many sheets as you want. Sheet 1 is going to be for the data dump. This is where your copy paste goes in. Sheet 2 is where all the transformation happens. So the next step is to go to extensions. And in extensions, you'll notice there is something called the app script. This helps us build the engine for the automation. Now, by default, it says there is code, so you could rename, let's call it first step, but you call it whatever you want. Ideally, what you name it, give it a short name for the transformation that's actually taking place so you know exactly what it's for. And you you'll want to make sure that you save your project, because if we just click on run, of course in this case it will execute, but let's give this project a title. Uh, let's give it, just call it cars for now. Now, what I wanted to show you is that in this case, I could just build multiple app scripts, but if you first deploy a project for the first time, you'll be asked by Google if you want to proceed. Otherwise, you won't be uh, you won't be able to proceed. So when you do get that prompt, go to click on advanced and say yes, proceed. It's just a security prompt, and of course you're building your own code, so you trust yourself. So this is the idea. You could add multiple scripts. You could add script number 2. You can add a script that will be script number 3, and so on and so forth, and where the codes will go in. So let's test. Let me show you the idea behind what we already have. So our script that we've already built. Let me make this a bit bigger. So the first script that we have is to capitalize the first letter of every word in row 1 on the specified sheet while maintaining the column order. And this is something that you want to feed the NLP. And what it does is that, let me just delete a few of these that we don't need. So what it does, let's delete this. So what it will do is on the first tab, it will capitalize the fields at the top, the column names. The next step is to copy the columns. So essentially, what we wanted, and I'll give you an example of how this works. So if we go to step 2, so we have two worksheets, S1 and S2. This is the info that I've entered in the NLP, so the natural language to code processor. So we have two worksheets. I'm advising the processor that we have S1 and S2, and we want to transfer columns A from S1, let me make this a bit bigger, to column F in S2. Then we want to transfer column B, S1, to column B, S2, and so on and so forth. So always provide exactly what your intention is, and it will make it easier for the NLP to transform it to a code. So let me show you how this works. So we'll go to Visual Studio. Make sure that you're set up as JavaScript. If you're going to use a built-in AI generator, in this case, I'm using Kuro. And let's go back to the first one. So what do I want? Let me make this a bit bigger. So we want to capitalize the first letter of every word in row 1 in the first sheet named S1 while maintaining the column order. Now, of course, you can use any type of AI gen, and of course, there's the most popular one, which is the ChatGPT. And here the system is currently crunching and setting up the info. And here we go. So you have a solution, and this is what we copied and pasted in our Google script. A little advice, do mention that it is for Google script. So when you provide, obviously in the natural language, do mention that you need a code in Google script. I know it's JavaScript, but it does help to mention that it is for Google script. And the reason is the following. Google script will time out after 6 minutes if for anything where it needs to crunch and modify. Any code that needs to run above 6 minutes will time out. So you need a code that is as efficiently productive as possible. In other words, it takes the least time of execution. That's why it's always a good idea in the NLP to mention, I need a Google script code. And for some NLPs, just make sure that you're set up as JavaScript. So we got the first code, and you could see we have nothing there yet. So the first code is the transferring Let's go back to the code. So we want to transfer the columns and in a very specific order. So I got that code from the NLP as well. Let's run it. Let me just close that. So let's run it. Let's go back to my app script. Now this just does the extract, and here we go. The extract has happened. So what do we notice here? This is just an extract of the columns we needed in the order that we needed. But there's a lot more work to do. We could see that our seller here, it's not organized by seller. So the next step is we want to have this organized by seller. And that is this code that I got from the NLP. Let's run it. So this organizes data in S2 by unique values in column A, starting from row 2. Always remember that you want to start from row 2, because if we start from row 1, that is the actual name of our fields. So we want to keep that. We want to keep the actual name of our fields without having these included in the equation. So let's run number 2 and organize it. And as we're running it, you could see that it's been organized by seller. Nice. We're not done yet. There's always a bit more that we could do to improve. So here we want to add a line to separate the sellers. The reason is we're going to want to enter the total of the sum of revenues, of the potential revenues, assuming the dealership sells all that's on the spreadsheet. So we see the different dealers here, and just wondering how many rows we have. I think I've extracted quite a few. We have about 10,099 rows. So 10,099 rows, we want to add a line that separates the dealers so we can have a space to enter the totals. Split the sellers. That's what it's called. So I called this split the sellers. Let's run split the sellers. And let's see, here we go. It took a few seconds. Actually, it's still running and it's complete. So now what we've done is all the sellers are split and we have an empty row. Now the next thing that we're going to do is a little trick that I'm going to show you. And the idea is to put a reference point, a point of reference. Sometimes explaining to the AI generator what it is that you intend to have formatted is not that simple. It won't be that simple if your formatting is a bit more complex. So one of the tricks is to add a reference point. let me show you. I'm going to add a reference point, and how am I going to word it is very simple. In column H, for every space or in every cell that is empty, in column H, for every cell that is empty, add a star or an X. I believe mine is a small x. So again, column H, for every empty cell going down, starting from row number 2, because we don't want to choose row number 1, which is the name of our fields. So starting from row number 2, for every empty cell in column H, we want to add a character X. And we want to stop program where when it ends with 2 empty rows, 2 successive empty rows, which means that the program will stop and not continue to iterate because there's a chance that it might not understand and just keep iterating and then time out. So when it reaches 2 empty rows, we want the program to stop. So let's add the reference point. So I called it insert X. Let's run it. And let's see, yes, we are now, so we got our X's in column H. Now, what did this do? This reference point has now allowed us to, to essentially set up our language much, much easier. In other words, it's easier to explain what our intention is. So we could say calculate, right? So if we look at everything above this X, we want it to calculate the sum of the totals in column H above every X. And we want it to insert the total formatted bold red. And this is going to be this program right here, which is called totals. I just want to show you without actually diving into the program. I'm not going to put you through that needless pain, but want to show you they're actually very short programs. And if you want to take the time to explore and see what it does, it's a great way to learn JavaScript. I'm not really well versed in JavaScript. I mean, pretty much school stuff. Um, but it proves to show that you don't really need to know anything about the language to create an automation using NLPs. So let's run this, and the X will transform into the total revenue that we can get for every single dealership, assuming they just sell everything that is on the list. So here we go. It's done, ready to download. So you could take this file, you could download this as a Microsoft Excel file, and there we go. It's downloaded as a Microsoft Excel, or you could just copy it and save it to another sheet or folder under your drive for historical records if you need. And yeah, that's all there is to it. It's pretty simple. And you can have one transformation, you could have 50 transformations, you could get as complex as possible. And of course, no matter how difficult or complex some explanations may be, you could always remember that you have the ability to add those reference points which is a way to get very ingenious and tricky. So no matter how difficult it is, you could leverage reference point. Now the run all. Run all, I did add in the GitHub link how to run them all, and it's very simple to create the run all. So the run all is a script by itself, and I want to show you how it works. So you can copy paste this and it'll pretty much be exactly the same for every script that you'll build in the future for every type of need. Essentially, what you're doing is you're adding the function name, which is the main function name of your every individual script. So every individual page. Let me show you where you get those. So in the run all, I have capitalize first letter in row 1. Now, if I go to my first file at the top, it's called capitalize first letter in row 1. This is the main function, and that's what we're adding here. Now, next comes from copy columns. Copy columns, the name of this function, the main function, is right here. Transfer data from S1 to S2, A1, AI mapping. Now, we got this from the NLP when we asked it to produce a code for us. So when it produced the code, it created this function name. So we've added that. Of course, next one, they're all coming from the function names, right? So you add all the function names in the run and the rest of the code, which is, you'll notice if you're familiar with coding, this is a code that iterates things, and you're getting the iteration, and then the code stops when it reaches the final function, which is the 6th function, and then your whole page is formatted. Of course, then you could just delete. You could also delete the data dump. You could go and let's go to our spreadsheet and let's delete some of the data. Actually, let's go to a bigger spreadsheet. So I'm going to delete the first 10,000 rows that I got. All right, we'll delete a bit more. Let's just delete all these rows. Now you wake up in the morning, you go to work, you've extracted different data. Of course, the reference, the fields remain the same, assuming the fields always remain the same, and they should, from whichever system you're downloading a data dump from. But the information changes, right? So the information changes. It changes from day to day. The dealerships have sold cars, or let's say you need to do this on a weekly basis. The data would have changed. The situation is different. So we're now extracting some new data. We're done. Let's copy this data. Let's paste it. Here we go. Remember the fields at the top? And I don't think we copied it with the fields. Let's go back. So let's copy some data with the fields. So here we go. We have the fields at the top. And now let's go back to S2. We see that it's empty. Let's go ahead and run all. Execution is started, and let's have some fun. Let's see what's happening. And here we go. It's all done. And voila, that was, I think, within 2, 3 seconds, maybe one. Of course, we had much less info in this case, and we just forgot to include the alphabetizing. So let's delete that. So now we alphabetized it using the first code. And we probably need that whole one to be inserted in. So you can always test, and this is why you need to make sure that you keep your, I would say, definitions, your code pieces as small as possible with every formatting so you could easily test and see what happens. Now, let's just go back to our S2. Let's go back to our code. Let's run all. And it's done. And we have our automation all done. Of course, in here we had 177 rows. We could easily have 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 rows, and it will automate everything the way we need to. So that's pretty much it. What I wanted to show you, how to automate spreadsheets, how easy it is to automate them. You just download the finished product as an Excel spreadsheet, and you have it all ready, and you could send it by email, forward it to the people that need it. And this will make your life so much easier at work. It could actually literally save hours and hours and even days of work from formatting. And my rule of thumb is if you need to format over 50 rows of data and 2 or 3 steps, automate. Definitely automate. And if you have, let's say, tens of thousands of line of rows and you need to format 50 to 100 steps, even 5 steps, um, automate or quit your job. Basically, you don't want to you don't want to go and even by using Excel lookup and other Excel functions, you really don't want to do that. This is even easier than using the Excel basic because it just makes automation so much easier. and life so much more pleasant at work. Now, if you want, I'll give you another clue. Um, you could go to I'm not sure if you're familiar with Kaggle. With Kaggle, Kaggle allows you to download lots of different data and play around with. So um, you could test if you're looking for great data to download and play with and so on. You could go to Kaggle, that's Kaggle, and they also have some great data competitions, a great website to visit. Um, that's pretty much it for today. Again, I'll have the link to my GitHub, and I do hope that you enjoyed the session. I will have some goodies for you in the next session. We're going to automate, we're going to create some Python automation. It will be AI automation for data. And we'll get some nice graphs and charts from that as well. And I'll show you how to do all that. I do hope that you enjoyed the session and that you do like and subscribe. It does help me a lot. I'll see you next time. Have a great one.